Did you say you were racing cars?
Yeah, well, I started racing in 1967. First race, I built a 57 Ford and took it to Beckley Motor Speedway at Beckley, dirt track.
Huh? Did you have to pay an admission, or was
Oh
there any
yeah,
prize money?
yeah. It's probably a dollar and a half to get in. We didn't have to pay an entry fee,
Right.
and we ran a class called Hobby Stock, which was a six-cylinder class, and the car had to be 10 years old. So I used a 57 and 67, and the car was just 10 years old, and had a six-cylinder in it, 223 six-cylinder, and I made a manifold. I built a homemade manifold. I'll show you that.
Uh huh.
That's pretty good. I got fun.
You can see there's about everything you need in the shop, and these are real tools. And it's amazing how many different tools you need for every different job.
I know it's piled up in here, but it's not right now here.
All right,
We'll get into that later, maybe.
no big deal.
I can't find it.
You ever been in Art's shop?
Oh yeah,
It's amazing he gets anything done in there.
He's got a path around in his too. Mine's a maze, like a maze, you know, just wide enough to get around.
Yeah, well, as long as you can put your hands on it.
Oh yeah. Well, in 40 years, that's what happens. You know, you get their stuff's been laying here since I've been here. 40
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
and I don't know. I'm kind of a hoarder, I reckon. They got that TV show called Hoarders.
Yeah.
And when I watch that, I'm thinking myself, thinking about how I need to get rid of this, get rid of that.
Yeah. Well, I like looking at the bugs outside.
Oh yeah, I like them too. I
Yeah.
love them.
Yeah.
I
So-
mow around them. I do
Yeah.
that.
Now, what's that outside? That is that a
The 39?
yeah? Is it a Plymouth?
No, it's a Chevy.
It's a
Master Deluxe.
And you're starting on the wheels.
I'm doing the wheel cylinders, replacing all four wheel cylinders and the master cylinder, and brake job basically.
Is it yours?
A major brake job. No, it belongs to a customer.
Uh-huh.
I rebuilt the engine in it.
Uh-huh.
Has a 216 original motor in it. I rebuilt that for him, and he drove it for a little bit, and then decided to go through the brakes. He wants to completely restore it,
Sure.
but takes time to do all that when you're on a budget.
How long do you think it'll take? 5 years?
Oh yeah, he can be. Yeah, it's kind of like a project.
Yeah.
You know, he's still got something to look forward to every 6 months. Well, we'll do this, we'll do that. You know how that kind
Yeah.
of goes.
Well, you
Some
know,
people take somewhere and let somebody completely do it, and then they come and pick it up, and there it is, brand new looking.
well,
It takes
yeah.
big money to do all that.
Well, when I started finding out about, the type of money that people would put into vehicles, or, I paid $1,100 to put this chrome around the headlight, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And then I said, well, wait a minute. Someone will pay $50,000 for a postage stamp.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah,
I,
one postage stamp.
so I looked at a different perspective. I mean, you got one of these cars,
That makes you look at it different.
and basically, it is liquid. I mean, if a fellow wants to sell the car, there's a good chance he's going to get his money back in America. It's just amazing how many people are keeping cars.
Well, it's like the buses out there.
Yeah.
Junkyard, they'll bring a couple $100 for scrap.
I saw in the paper the other day a fellow got $70,000 for a restored early 60s. I think it was in Denmark. Got $70,000. Well, let's get back to that darn racetrack.
Well, I hauled the car down there on a 1965 Chevy, big truck, a C60, which is a 2.5 ton truck, flatbed. Back then, that's how people hauled them. They hauled them in on log trucks and didn't have trailers. There was a few trailers, but there definitely wasn't no big toter homes and haulers, and there wasn't none of that kind of stuff yet. Or enclosed trailers, they didn't have those yet. And we backed up to a ramp to unload it, like a little loading dock made in right there at the track. And the guy, we got there real early. We left early that morning. Of course, the track didn't open up to 3 o'clock, and we was there at 11. We had to wait for the guy to open up, and he'd come in. He said, well, y'all guys are early, aren't you? And we said, yeah. We didn't know how long it was going to take us to get here. It took about 2 hours because we had to go the old way.
Oh, yeah.
There wasn't no interstate yet.
Right.
And he asked us where we was from. We told him Rennick. And he said, where's that at? I said, up in Greenbrier County. up above Lewisburg. He said, "Oh, that's up there where State Fair is at." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "So it looks good." He said, "If you run as good as you look, or if you look as good as you run, well, whichever way, if you run as good as you look," he said, "you'll do all right." Of course, that made us feel good, but that was his job, you know. And he was actually the owner of the track at the time, you know. John Radford was his name, I think. John Radford, I believe, yeah. And, well, after a couple hours, after we got it unloaded, we went down into the pits with it, and then people started coming in, the other cars. Of course, everybody was looking at us because we was new. Paint job all new, no dirt on it, no scratches. Number 57 on it. And the car was a 57, and that's the number I chose, 57, because I didn't know what number to put on it. My brother was helping me, and he said, "Why don't you put 57 on it? Because it's a 57 Ford, and that way everybody will know what it is." So I said, "Okay." So that's how we got the number 57. So that stuck with us forever. And anyhow, when we got in the race, they ran a heat race. We practiced a little bit, and I could see we wasn't doing too good. And we practiced, and we ran the the heat race, which was 10 laps, and the feature was going to be 20 laps. Well, they started a heat race, and of course we started in the rear, and a little bit they was out of sight. It looked like I was leading the race because they were coming in behind me. And a little bit, the guy started shaking the layover flag at me, and I got down out of the way, and here they went, all of them lined up. It wasn't about 3 or 4 laps they passed me, and I was running wide open. Of course, after that heat had come in, my buddy with me, he said, "Daggone it, was you wide open?" I said, "Yeah, I was wide open." He said, "Well, it didn't look like you was, but I was." So they started the feature race, and after they ran a few more heats in the other divisions, and started in the rear again, and it wasn't, as soon as they dropped the flag, they went into the first turn. Here I'm still coming out of number 4, and I couldn't see them no more. And it wasn't about 5 more laps, and here they come again. And I'm thinking, man, I'm out to lunch here. But I went ahead and finished the race, but finished last, probably 5 laps down in 20, and we had to go back to the drawing board. That's when we built the intake manifold and started shaving the head more and souping the motor up. We automatically thought, well, we need more horsepower. You know, of course, there was a whole lot of things we needed. It wasn't just horsepower. So they ran every week. They ran every Saturday. You know, so we spent our whole summer going down there. And by the end of the year, we got lucky and got to where we could run with them. They didn't run off and hide from me like they did before, because we kept looking and talking, looking at other people's cars and talking to people about what we needed, and everybody trying to help you.
Sure, that's right.
Contribute, trying to
It's
help you
fun.
because you're running in the
Yeah.
back. You know, it was all for fun. And we got to where we could run up top 5. You know, run 5th, 6th. And one guy told me, he said, "You know something? Before you can win one of these races," he said, "you got to finish 2nd." And I said, "I see." And he said, "Before you can finish 2nd, you have to finish 3rd." He said, "You're not going to come in here and beat these guys. They've been at it too long."
Sounds like your dad.
Yeah, well, it wasn't my dad. It was an old racer at the track. So that fall, we did get lucky and won a race, won a heat race. But we didn't win a feature. But the heat races, they would divide the cars up and run half of them in one heat and half in another heat. And it'd be 8 or 10 in one heat and 8 or 10 in the other, and then maybe 15 to 20 cars in the feature race. Back in those days, I mean, it was, shoot, they got more cars back then. They had more cars back then than they got now, you know, in these little tracks. And